You're listening to The Jeff Zapp Show.
He's not a conspiracy theorist. He's just a patriot, standing for God, family, and country. Now, here's your host, the Zapper.
Yes, the sweet smell of victory. President Trump wins the third time in a row. How about that, sports fans? Welcome to another episode of the Jeff Zapp Show. Here I am with my makeup on. This is for you, Tom Lloyd. What's it gonna take? Buckle up. Let's go on a little ride together. Gonna break it all down here. Jeff's analysis on another episode of the Jeff Zapp Show. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Let me turn down some of these lights. It looks like it's a little too bright in here. Yeah, this is what happens when you you get into the studio and you're having a celebration cocktail. No, I'm just kidding you. I'm actually having a little bit of a celebration cocktail, but for whatever reason, these lights are a little bit. There we go. We've got the mood lighting now. Hey, it's the day after the general election, the presidential election, and maybe I should start drinking, 6 November 2024. And here is the town crier again. Jeff's going to break it down, have all the analysis for you. No, not really. It's something that my wife and I did last night. Turned on Fox News after years. I said, "Do you really want to do that, honey?" She said, "Yeah, put it on there so I can yell at them." And we did. It was Brett Baer and the rest of them. Listen, now, I don't really have a dog in that hunt, but I will tell you this. We were flip-flopping back and forth. I actually had Steve Bannon War Room on and a couple other things streaming live. And she was flipping back and forth between, I think, CNN as well as Fox News. And we were watching all the reporting as it was coming in. And, one of the things... Now, we're going to dive into all this here just a little bit. Before we do that, let's just back up just a slight here. First and foremost, to my buddy Tom. This is Tom Lloyd, my old friend I haven't seen in such a long while. Listen, man, do me a favor. And for anyone else that wants to get in touch with the old Zapper, would you just send me an email? I'm not going to post I scrubbed my social media stuff, but I'm not going to post my phone number, but my email address, you can reach me at jeff@thejeffzappshow.com. Go to the website right down below here, there, thejeffzappshow.com, where you can find links to Telegram. Maybe I've got like two followers on Telegram. It's funny. Truth Social, and information about the podcast, downloading the latest episodes. If you're out and about, you get them on all the major podcast platforms. And, of course, you can download the archive streams. Streaming live tonight on YouTube, as well as my primary go-to platform. Thank you so much, Rumble. You've been outstanding. We talked about this on Monday during, the last several years, but especially 2021. And in the ensuing years, some of the things that we were being censored for, deplatformed, videos removed. Rumble has been fantastic. So check us out on Rumble. We're streaming live. The live chat is up. Used to be called Rumble Rants. We've got a few people dialing in right now, but thanks so much for stopping by. Here is to the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, the President-elect. It is now official. If you haven't been paying attention, welcome to a new frontier. A little celebratory drink right there, and that's right. We're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to have Jeff's analysis. Now, listen, I don't have a monopoly on the truth. I've said, if you're tuning into this show, what's different about my show? Number one, I don't care if one person listens or if I'm talking to myself here. I primarily write the scripts for myself. And what I mean by that is specifically when it comes to the preaching sermon of this, my show is all about encouraging you folks, in the way that leads to truth, freedom, and hope found only in Christ alone. So if you're stopping by and you're like, why is this guy, he's such a Jesus freak. He keeps talking about the Lord and he believes this Jesus and what's going on with that? Well, stick around and you'll find out. But tonight is primarily going to be my analysis on what transpired last night and what we've learned over the past 4 years. Unless you crawled out from underneath your rock, it was a pretty historic event. Well, first and foremost, because as we were watching the counts trickle in from some of the different states, I had mentioned on Monday that I didn't really know. I don't have a crystal ball, so I didn't know exactly what was going to transpire. I had some ideas, but I didn't really share that with anybody because, again, is it ultimately going to make a difference in the final outcome or the final analysis? Absolutely not. And I was suspect that there was going to be some tomfoolery going on. Do you remember what happened 4 years ago? Stop the vote. Dumping ballots from these drop boxes and all this other nonsense that was, it was just riddled. The election was riddled with a bunch of stuff. Biden supposedly got 81 million votes. In fact, that's what is amazing. Trump got not only the popular vote, but he also took the Electoral College and he broke through their blue wall. So states such as Michigan and Wisconsin and Arizona, we had Georgia, Pennsylvania. Some of these states, they were just very close. I'll use Virginia as an example, where you're watching the percentage of the total votes that are coming in after the polls close, and it was really interesting to see what was going to happen. I felt pretty confident early on, and especially as we started to see that the total number of votes, which, again, what happened to the 20 million votes? Biden got 81 million votes. I want to see if I can't find this on my my Twitter, because that's what I'm going to do tonight is I'm actually just going to bring up X, and be able to go through some of the posts out there. I think it's amazing. I mean, people that create content, honestly, like myself, some of them are so much more creative than myself, and I think it's amazing to be able to see what some of these people have done with graphics, with memes, with some of the other stuff. But I'm sure some of you are reeling, absolutely just joyous in your heart that the good Lord himself have spared us, every Joe and Jane American, the average American, man. We just want to get back to some, I'll use their term, some common sense. A wave forward, a new frontier, a new chapter in the history of the United States of America. In terms of preserving democracy, well, I think we definitely are going to be doing that. The red wave happened, and it's time to celebrate. I'm sure there are some of you out there. I'm not one to gloat or to stick the finger out there. I'm not like that. Listen, I'm imperfect. I try to be as humble as I can. I understand that some people are, I almost said something. I've got to stop with the martinis before I start this show. Well, you don't have to look far on social media. You can find out very quickly that some people are having a bad day. Remember that song, You Had a Bad Day? Some people are doing that. It reminds me very much 2016. In fact, we worked on the campaign back in the day, and Lori and I ended up going, my wife and I, we ended up going to the inauguration in 2017. But I remember some of the riots and the looting and the craziness and the Trump derangement syndrome that started from the earliest of days and still is present. It's continues to be readily available. It seems at the beck and call of the liberals or the progressives that are out there. And so I know for some folks it's a very dark day in America. But the reality is it's an overwhelming, resounding, let's do this, let's effing go. It's time for a change, and that has certainly been accomplished for many of us like me. That 4 years ago, there I am standing up in Columbia with a bullhorn, trying to rally troops to figure out what in the heck just happened last night. I'm talking about 2020. to me, the statistics clearly show what happened to those 20 million extra votes. I mean, Trump didn't get, I don't think he didn't get as many votes last night in terms of a comparison to the 2020 election. But he did really well in the bellwether counties, and all the predictions were that he was going to kick some booty, and he certainly did that. Harris underperformed. I think, and this is just my prediction again, Jeff's analysis on everything that we've been living through, and especially some of the the name game that already started to happen, or the blaming, the finger pointing. You saw it today if you watched or tuned into any news program at all. Let's just use some of the traditional legacy media or corporate media. They already started pointing the fingers within the Democrat Party. We should have done this. This is the reason why we lost. It happens all the time. It was the improper messaging, or they failed to capitalize on this, that, or the other. I think here's the reality is where we're at, folks. And if you're in that other camp, listen to me very carefully. Messaging is one thing, but policies dictate ultimately, especially when you're reaching into your pocket here, trying to figure out how much money you have left there or in your bank account. When it hits hard home and you're having a hard time paying the bills, you're having a hard time putting food on the table, you're having a hard time just trying to work multiple jobs to get her done. Those policies, when you see people that are streaming into our country, when drugs are pouring in, when you've got illegals that are getting free handouts, when you see that we're sending billions upon billions of dollars to nations, foreign nations, supporting them more than our own infrastructure here, and the other craziness, coupled with wokeism, CRT, we're a white racist nation, all this, quite honestly, it's a bunch of malarkey. I believe the younger folks, I'll say Gen Z, and I'm starting to get a better picture for of the Gen Zs because of my interaction with them, my son's age, and all of his friends and my daughter's friends. And boy, it is encouraging to see this younger generation get it. A lot of them have I think Joe Scarborough, I was listening to a clip, if I can find it on X, I'll share it with you, but I'm running my motor mouth right now. But Joe himself, Scarborough, had said, well, one of the things is the younger generation, they've kind of just been putting their head down because their fear when they're in these university classes or they're, in the academic setting, they're fearful of saying something that might be, quote, politically incorrect because they're going to be attacked. So they go to social media or they just keep their head down and keep plowing ahead. And you know what? Sooner or later, the straw that breaks the camel's back is they're like, I'm tired of it. So the messaging from the Democrats especially was poor, given the fact that they weren't walking out what they should have been doing in terms of policies. Trump, regardless of whether you like him or not, or if you suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, keep tuning the dial. You're welcome here, but you're not going to like what you're hearing. I'm going to speak the truth in love as best as I can. The policies that Trump had, and even after all of the hoaxes and the BS and the lies and deceit that were thrown at him, he still had enacted policies that were working for this country. And specifically, when you look at the economy itself, it was doing fantastic. And of course, then everything changed in 2020 with the pandemic, with the start of COVID, and then the run up to with the Transition Integrity Project, folks, those brainiacs that were getting ready. They were going to war game what was going to happen in the presidential election. They propped up Joe Biden, who had been in service to this country as a senator, as a vice president, for how long? They propped that guy up there. He was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He gets 81 million votes. They stopped the counting, and what happens? He's installed, and, this guy, he's got some serious issues, some dementia, and, he doesn't even know what he's doing. So they've got a puppet in there. Whoever's running it, you can be the judge on that. I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories, but come on, who's been running the government? So this happens and the policies are reversed, and I think the people have said enough. We've had a serious migration of independents and moderates and people that they go, wow, this Democrat Party is fundamentally different than what we thought it was. It's shifted so far radically left, progressive, socialist, fascist, Marxist, fill in the blank. It's lots of it's. Come on, man. Policies. So I think it was a resounding big old double middle finger to the establishment. Quite honestly, not only to the Democrat Party, but the Republicans. Remember all of the nonsense that we've had to deal with from the Republican side, Republicans in name only or establishment, what have you, the old guard. They're still there. And I'm really eager to see, because Trump, here he is, winning 3 times in a row. Now, I don't care if you call me whatever. There's no reason why he lost the 2020 election. In fact, the statistics, if you're a math person, you know exactly. Something definitely happened there. He didn't lose to Joe Biden. And then the Democrats, they pushed Joe aside right there at the end, said, no, excuse me, we'll handle this. They propped up a female, thinking that maybe she was going to be able to carry her message and that she was going to get the younger vote. And, of course, they fell flat on their face. And now they're blaming each other about, here's the messaging we should have went with. But here's my thing, and if you can remember anything from this podcast tonight, these folks will never stop. If you dial back the clock just a little bit and think about from the indictments coming against Trump, 2 attempts on his life, the Russia hoax, the impeachment 1, impeachment 2, all of the nonsense that they've thrown at him and continue to come after him and make up these stories in the news, in social media, it's absolutely terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But the guy, he is going to make America great again. Actually, I just hope he does make America what it should be as a constitutional republic. It's a sweet-smelling victory for a majority of Americans, your average Joe and Jane American. It's your hardworking American, and I've talked to some people here, even locally. It was funny today. One of my, I'll call him a friend, but he also is a business owner. He does my dog's grooming, and Josue came over today, and he came out smiling. He said, "What do you think, Jeff?" And I said, "Oh, it was a great night. What did you think?" He goes, "I'm so happy." And that's true across the board, whether I'm speaking with a black person or white person or Hispanic or an Asian person. It doesn't matter, man. Blue, black, brown, red, yellow, blue, in between, man. Everyone that I've spoken to lately seemed to be just fed up with the way things have been going, and especially as it relates to the economy. I mean, the economy is huge. Trump says, hey, we're going to bring Elon Musk on board, and he's going to help reduce some of this government waste that we have and improve the efficiencies, and we're going to get down to business. And I'm so excited. In fact, let's say a dream team, kind of like the basketball, NBA basketball, they go to the Olympics. You got LeBron James and Steph Curry and all of them, and they're the dream team. Well, maybe Trump now, after learning from his first term in 2016, that some of the people that he brought on board were certainly in an administrative function. They were just, they weren't the right people for the job, man. They were either part of the establishment or they just didn't know what the hell they were doing. They were the wrong people. And I think he's learned. And so now with him bringing on board, he's got RFK Jr. that's supposed to make America healthy again. That's really exciting. We've got Elon Musk, who is going to be heading up probably a variety of different things, but I just want to say make government more efficient. Man, boy, there's a lot of fat that can be trimmed from government. He's talked about getting rid of agencies and lots of employees. And, that sounds bad initially, but guess what? If you're talking severance packages and retirement packages for people that have served the federal government, there's a lot of waste. Let's just say that. we can trim the fat and get back to the way we need to. And one of the things that I'm really excited about, there were some rumors today or discussions as it relates to end the Fed, right? The Federal Reserve. Ron Paul, you remember Ron? Ron, not Rand, his dad. Ron Paul used to talk about this all the time, that we needed to audit the Federal Reserve, that we needed to end income tax, and there needed to be another way. And so some of you are going, what's he talking about? Going to end the Fed? Where we get our money? Well, guess what? When you actually talk about ending a progressive or graduated income tax, number one, we get rid of that tax agency that can come after you. And a lot of my friends, a lot of our conservative friends were attacked or sought after because of simple things. Listen, because maybe you're a conservative Christian, they're going to come after this Internal Revenue Service. It's like the thugs of the federal government. And, quite honestly, until 1913, we didn't have a federal income tax. So go look up the Federal Reserve. If you're unfamiliar with it, you can go back into my archives and listen to all the stuff. Or maybe you can read the book, what is it, Griffin, what is it, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Go check that out. Do a little bit of reading and then come back to me, and we can have a meaningful dialogue of the Federal Reserve and the IRS. But that would be huge. Why? Because, number one, we would start to bring manufacturing and jobs back here to the United States, not necessarily talking about all these tariffs and all the trade stuff. Certainly in today's world, you've got this international global economy. But guess what? Let's bring the good-paying jobs back here. And let's allow the system itself to be able to produce the types of revenues that we need, whether through a flat tax or some other type of mechanism that would help alleviate the strain and the stress on the average Joe and Jane American, the average American worker that's footing the bill for all this excess runaway government spending. I mean, I've talked about it before. How many billions of dollars did we send to Ukraine? Did we send to these other foreign nations that don't give a root hoot about us? And we continue to go down that path. And so I think some of the changes are upcoming. I think we're going to see some improvement in the efficiencies of government. And it's going to be really an interesting time. I'm excited about what ultimately is going to, I don't know what's going on here with the camera, what's going to transpire as it relates to the transition team, who else he's going to bring on board, Vivek Ramaswamy, some of these other people. I think it's great to see some of the folks that he's already bringing on board. And, it's not over, folks. It's like we've charged the beachhead. We've secured the area. Now we got to keep pressing on. We cannot become apathetic. We cannot become complacent. If you want to return this America to the type of republic that it needs to be, we need to start bringing morality back into the decisions that we make, which I believe ties into this fact that part of the problem or the challenge that we've had is fighting these policies as they relate to things like such as gender politics, all right? Messaging with regard to, critical race theory and wokeism and some of these things, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, these are just absolutely like scholarly out there. We're going to move those aside. We're going to get rid of some of the efficiencies. We're going to reduce spending. We need to reduce the debt because I always say we're headed to bankruptcy and faster than a New York minute. But we got to get back to making sure that the powers reside primarily with the state. The federal government has been way too big for way too long. I think everybody can realize this. And back to this, my body, my choice, and regardless of which side of the fence you're on, quite honestly, those types of decisions should be resolved by the state. So the overturning of Roe versus Wade, a historic, actually reversing what a poor decision initially it was. And that has been somewhat of a hot-button topic. But quite honestly, I'm glad we're back putting the power to the states And it starts to come back to us. That is the beauty of living in a republic. It has democratic principles, but folks, democracy is 50-50, man, and the majority wins, right? 51%. That's not how our country is supposed to operate. And so these preserving democracy or safeguarding democracy is nothing more than a bunch of malarkey. We live in a republic if we can keep it, right? So those are going to be really important things to continue to work on. Let me see if I can pull up. There's a couple things that I wanted to point out here, and I probably won't have an opportunity. Oh my goodness, there's so many different things on Twitter here, and I guess if I would have just pulled up this first, I would have been able to see it. So, all right, let's see if I can just bring this up, and we'll put this over here. Give me a second. I'm a one-man band, and I think we're going to go to this browser here. All right, so, all right, we'll send this over. Okay, how about this? Let's see if this works. This post is from Kevin Bass, PhD, MS. Thank you, Kevin, at Kevin Bass. 20 million votes just appeared in 2020. Then just as soon, they disappeared again. So here's a graphic. I don't know who created this. He did or somebody. This was earlier this morning when I took the screenshot or the link to it. If you'll notice there, it does suggest that during the 2020, remember Biden supposedly got 81 million votes. Well, just look at the difference. I think Harris was right around 66 million, or correct me if I'm wrong, and you can throw it up in the chat if you want. And then look at Trump. Trump got like 71 or 72 million. Again, I'm kind of just approximating here, so don't throw mud at me. And then look at compare those totals to the 2020 for him. I think he was like at 73, 74 million, somewhere around there. And of course, that was during the COVID pandemic, right? Everything was locked up, and so people were voting primarily through mail-in ballots or drop boxes, and stop the vote. We got to count. And that's still going on here, by the way. The good news is, if there is any good news, if we go back to what last night's win ultimately means for us, we're going to have Donald J. Trump in the presidency, is the 47th president of the United States, and then we're going to have a Republican Senate. That's a given. We're also, I thought I had everything up here. We're also going to, it appears like we're going to have a House of Representatives that will be Republicans as well. And so we're just going to have to wait and see, what ultimately, they're still counting votes in some of these places. I don't know. It's absolutely crazy. But I wanted to hear from you. I was hoping that some of you would drop on tonight. Tell me what your thoughts are. Where are we headed as a nation? Those numbers that I just shared with you, the difference between 2020 and 2024. Now, listen, I was called an election denier. I ended up really leaving the local Republican Party because of some things I had disagreements about. It was just not total nonsense. When we had Engage the Right, remember the nonprofit that we were running, we were doing canvassing and we were looking at voter rolls. My wife was right on, man. Dead people on voter rolls, they needed to be purged. Where are they getting these people? Where were the extra 20 million votes? So here's one of the things that we need to safeguard. First and foremost is I want to go back to this concept that just because we won, the sweet smell of victory, that's fantastic. But if we want to return America to being truly great, truly American, truly great republic, we need to start following some of these policies that made it great in the first place. That would include, limited government. The government isn't the answer to all of your problems. It's we the people. We hire these people, and then they go up there on Capitol Hill, and they work for us for 30 or 40 years. They come out wealthy as wealthy can be. They get all the perks of being, a congressman or woman or a senator. And they don't, as Carlin said, George Carlin, it's a big club and you and I are in a club, and they don't give a hoot about you. They don't care. So that needs to change. We need to have some sort of a term limit. We need to make sure that there are checks and balances, not only within the branches of government. We know that's there within the Constitution. That's why we have safeguards such as the First Amendment, which was totally thrown out the window during the pandemic, censorship. That's why we have the Second Amendment to protect the First Amendment, the right to bear arms. Now, tragedies happen, violence happens. It's not the gun's fault. And those safeguards, again, the Bill of Rights are there for a reason. Not to self-incriminate yourself, illegal search and seizures. These are the things that we need to get back to. So we need to cut the fat off, as I said earlier. We need to get rid of some of these stupid-ass policies as they relate to things such as, you're such a racist nation, so we're teaching CRT, and we're going to be indoctrinating the young. That's you know what? They're done. We're done with that. But we need to fix our elections, because here's the thing that I'm really adamant about. What I'm just trying to share with you is the reality of, if you're still living in fantasy land, I'm showing you or demonstrating to you that what happened in 2020 wasn't a mirage. It really happened. It really was a coup or color revolution. However, they overthrew a president saying, oh, no, and they rigged it. And the Transition Integrity Project, those brainiacs, those knuckleheads, they ended up installing the Biden regime. I'd say president. Give me a break. And that's not anger towards him. It's just like, that's why we were living in this fantasy land. And then some of the people on my side, I would say the right, thought that there was some conspiracy of Q nuts, that they were going to come out and save the world and have these tribunals. How's that working out for you? So I'm just frustrated, because we truly are and have been in an information war for a long time. Yuri Bezmenov mentioned this in the late 70s, early 80s. It's called active measures. I mentioned this on my program the other day. Remember the former KGB agent who used the term ideological subversion or active measures? No one is able to come to sensible conclusions. Wow, what a concept. You mean like psychological operations? Yes, active measures. And you think our own government doesn't I know that they do. They participate. They have been for a long time. Our own government. Step 1 was demoralization. Infiltration from within, I called it. 15 to 20 years. Step 2, destabilizing a nation, which takes between 2 to 5 years. That's with effing with the economy, foreign isolation, and step 3 is a crisis or an event to prop up a new world order, followed by final normalization. Okay, so as the pendulum swings back and forth between the, anarchy to totalitarianism, it finds about. Of course, then you have the installed regime, and that's Yuri Bezmenov. Okay, where was I going with that? We're in an information war, whether you like it or not, and we have been for a long time. And it was frustrating for me to go through the 2020 election. And stick with me, because I'm almost to my point. Then I'm going to shut my mouth. It was frustrating to go through the 2020, to have normal people, you don't really believe that the election was stolen. And I'm not even talking about machines and all that stuff, but we're going to get to that. No, something happened. So last night was like redemption, sweet smell victory, fantastic, but let's not become complacent. Let's always remain vigilant, because ultimately, and I think this is what Trump has to do, and I saw it with, you get percent totals in at 3%, and they're calling an election or a race for this blue check mark or this red check mark. That's total BS. We've got to get back to one-day voting, watermarked paper ballots, and voter identification. And each precinct, just like where I voted, in my precinct here locally, got like 12 to 1,400 registered voters in a precinct. That's your local little voting block, right? It's very easy if we went to one-day voting. One day. How hard is it to count? And you're not going to get 100% turnout in a vote in voting anyway. Even if you got, I think the guy said 75% turnout. That's pretty damn good. Even if you've got 75%, so what? It's 700. Let's round it off. Let's say 800 votes. Okay, is that going to take you hours to count? I mean, even if you did a tabulation with an electronic counter and audited with a hand count, verified by a third party, and checked it and signed it off, and you had the totals there ready to rock and roll at the end of the elections close or the polls close at 7, we've got a total by 7:05. And so if we don't get back to a one-day watermark paper ballots with voter identification, because you need to be a citizen, folks. You have to be a citizen to vote in this country. And you need a freaking ID for every damn other thing, to buy cold medicine or alcohol or cigarettes or you name it, to get on an airplane. I don't think it's asking too much. In fact, I think this is part of what we're getting ready to do, is out with the old, in with the new. We're getting ready to take out the trash with all the nonsense that we've witnessed and experienced for so long. And there's no time for retribution. Those that are out there today, and I've already seen it on social media, sticking their finger in the eye of, I told you. And listen, there's no time for that either. It's time to get rid of all of those issues that have caused it. And we've been babied. It's like, it's one thing to like talk about war. It's a whole other thing to go into combat. Maybe some of you out there listening have actually been in, bullets are flying by your head. I haven't been in combat myself. I have a lot of buddies and brothers that have been. I have some friends that never came back from the combat zone. I didn't serve in a combat zone. It's one thing to train for or have a scenario for combat, but until you actually get into it. And so that's the same thing with what we're experiencing right now. Listen, this is great. We won. But you know what? Let's keep our eye on the prize. Let's keep looking down. In 4 years from now, 8 years from now, I'm not going to be around forever, but I want to have some sort of a progeny, some sort of a legacy left for my children, my great-grandchildren, if I live to be that old. At least for my grandchildren, God willingly, hopefully that happens. So we've got to stay vigilant. The enemy is not going away. Folks, if anything, that we put a pretty big dent. I think we took them by surprise. Trump did very well. But again, part of that is because of the policies, knowing that people want to have a return to where there's some semblance of justice, of doing what's right. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're out of the woods yet, because that's the farthest thing from the truth. I think we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We've got a transition team. We've got a transition period. We have a certification and then inauguration coming up. But I do believe that the younger generation, I'll say Gen Z, thank you, Gen Z. And I'd love to have some listeners actually chime in, because my perspective, I'm in my mid-50s, man. I still feel like I'm 30. But the reality is I'm halfway to third base. That's the truth. Maybe some of you listeners are a little bit older than me. And I just want to see us as a nation get back, God, country, family, some fundamentals. We're in this post-Christian culture where now it's like, people look at you like you got three heads if you start talking about a God who is the creator and sustainer of all things. I'm not going to apologize for it. He's in charge. He's in charge of everything that happened and has happened or will happen, and he certainly was in charge of last night. Like I said, I'm thankful. I give him all the glory. He's the one that's in charge. I'm trying to do my part. You need to do your part as well. And we as Americans need to get past some of these divisive tactics that have been used against us in this information war for such a long time. It's divide and conquer. It's a two-camp system. It's the reason why I said we don't have time for retribution. Don't sit around and say, "Oh, we got to go get them now. We got those charges against Trump. We got to get Jack Smith." No, come on. You know what? Maybe it's time to for Trump when he gets in to pardon Hunter. Maybe it's time to say, "Okay, we're tired of all this extracurricular activities that the federal government seems to have a unending amount of money that they can pump into investigations and all this other." Remember Benghazi? How much money was spent on the investigation? Listen, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Whatever happened there was a big goat rope. But ultimately, whether it was Hillary Clinton's laptop or her emails and bleach bed and whatever comes of any of that, nothing. It's just good for drama, for television, for movies, for entertainment, and the frickin' legacy media. And with that, we'll have a cocktail. We're going to take a short break now. It's very frustrating. I think that's actually really agonizing when you stop and think about how much the government wastes. It's so bloated. It's absolutely ridiculous. I go to Citizen Free Press. In fact, it was pretty neat. I used to watch, was it the War Zone? I'm trying to think. I can't think tonight. Stephen K. Bannon, when he was on with Breitbart years ago. It's a long story, but I was watching Bannon last night, War Room, and that young lady, what's her name, Natalie Winters. She's really extraordinary. I'm telling you what. Good for her parents in raising a nice young woman who is very, very smart. She's on top of it. Statistically, she knows how to throw out the numbers. I've always enjoyed listening to Bannon. There were some times there that I just kind of stayed away. I mean, what's the deal with who used to be on there all the time? Mike Lindell. Whatever happened to Mike Lindell? Does anybody know? Remember all the stuff when, talking about the steel, and he would have, a conference, or I've got the receipts, and whatever happened to him. Anyway, Bannon and Natalie Winters, I think, do a really good job. I still do like to listen to Raheem Kassam. I think he's got the Pulse, or National Pulse, or whatever. I'm kind of rambling right now, but these are the things that ultimately, when we stop and think about or reflect upon what is going on or has happened within our nation, the opportunity for us to dial in to social media now. And I think Elon Musk, I was on a live stream with him. Was it yesterday or the day? I think it was yesterday. Maybe it was Monday night. I don't know, man. I didn't get any sleep last night, hardly at all. But I was on live stream. He was talking about how, like, social media, it's so neat with, you have people, independent journalists now that, kind of like myself, podcasters and producers, that are able to bring together content and present it to people. Very useful information, and it's so much better than listening to a talking head on a broadcast network that they have unlimited resources really to bring up. And a lot of the stuff is propaganda, or they're establishing a narrative that, quite honestly, who really cares about? So let me scroll through here and see if I can find what's going on here. I was hoping that we would find a couple of a neat little clips. Oh, yes, of course, Kamala did concede. I don't know if that was really a concession speech, but maybe you saw that. I think there's more memes out here right now than anything else that I can. So I probably will just keep it short and sweet. We're at 45 minutes in. And you know what? It is time to go have a cocktail and celebrate. But don't forget what I said here, folks. It is time to celebrate. There doesn't need to be any retribution. We don't need to be throwing it back in their faces. I think there is a time now where we can finally sensibly come together as fellow man and woman, human beings, and be kind, as my buddy Big Al would say. Let's be kind to one another out there. Give an opportunity for us to heal a little bit, and let's get on down the road, because we don't need to be divided. And that has been the tactic in this war. I guess that's my point, as we're still in an information war. And we have some of the tools now. And thank goodness that we have platforms such as Rumble. And I think BitChute and what's Mike Adams, Health Ranger, what's his platform out there? I'm drawing a blank. I'm just having a hard time tonight. But these are some of the things that are going to help allow us to disseminate information. And to my fellow hardworking Americans that hung in there and that were getting weary, and especially after those that, whether you canvassed or worked your tail off through all of the numbskullery that we had to ensue, even local politics for Republicans, establishments being called names and election deniers and everything else. This victory as President Trump, this victory really is for you and for me. But it's time that we do our job. We remain vigilant. We keep pressing on. The deep state is never going to go away. They don't want to relinquish power. We ultimately, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And I said, as a program, it's, for me, this is all about the fact that this is spiritual and all this stuff is going away. It's just like, as I mentioned, I'm rounding, I've already rounded second base, headed to third. At some point, I am mortal. I'm going to take my last breath, and so will you. It is about establishing a legacy, being able to hand off to the next generation something better, hopefully, that they can build upon, and that they can continue the progeny for their own several generations. But the victory is sweet. Certainly, it's time to experience that and to be joyous. But we still have a lot of work to do, and I'm hopeful that as we head towards Thanksgiving and into the Christmas holiday at the beginning of the year, we can get down to business, and Trump and his new administration and staff will accomplish exactly what they said they were going to. Oh, for those that are fearful of, here's another one, the fear porn, the project, 2025, that Trump's going to come in. If you are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, I would highly encourage you to go seek out professional help, and I'm not being facetious here. If at anything you hear what I'm saying is he's not what he's been portrayed to be. So if you've aligned yourself with people that say Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, listen, I don't know a person's heart, only God does. But you can look at the life of a person, all the work that they've done throughout their life, and you can examine or scrutinize how his or her experiences and all of the things that they've accomplished in their life, and talk to people. I met Trump. I'll never forget. It was on Kiwa Island, and we were doing a rally, and I was working with the Secret Service at the time. Not me as a Secret Service agent. I was just working with them. I was detached to help handle bags and to drive people around. John Roberts, I'll never forget. He was on the bus I was driving. It's another story for another day. But I met Trump, and I thought, man, you know what? He is really authentic, authentic, which I love. He's down to earth. He cares about you. And I think he cares about this country. So if you are in that TDS and you've been lied to, part of what this program is trying to do is to help you to see the truth in Jesus Christ, that there is something more than the flesh and blood, the physical here. There is a spiritual battle that we're all involved with, whether we admit to it or not. And no, I'm not. I don't want you to think that I'm having a hard time. I'm excited. I'm passionate. I didn't have too much to drink. I am getting ready to go have a cocktail, though. And I think we should celebrate. This is a great time. This is an historic event in the United States of America. I know for my children, I'm really happy for them, because there is now an opportunity, I said, a new era for the young men and women in the country to step up and to take ownership and to say, no. You're not going to tell us what to do. You're going to do what we want you to do, because it's we the people in this constitutional republic. We're going to safeguard frickin' democracy. So back off, jack off. So that's going to do it for me. I'm sorry I wasn't able to pull up some of my Twitter stuff, but now I know how to do it, and I've got it. Thanks for tuning in. Do me a favor, share this with your family or friends. Drop me an email. Tom, tell me what's going on. Jeff at thejeffzappshow.com. I would certainly appreciate it. Enjoy the victory, folks. And if you are suffering from TDS, give it a day. Put it in perspective. As I said the other night, it's time for you to zoom out. You are all mortal, and we're all headed to the same place. So you better get right with the one who is sovereign, who rules and reigns. And oh, by the way, he does love you. Jesus is real. He's coming back to clean up the mess. Don't take it from me. Take it from God himself. See you next time right here on another episode of the Jeff Zapp Show. Zapper out. Thanks for tuning in. Would you please do me a big favor? Like, subscribe, and share this content with your family and friends. Send your questions, comments, or requests for interviews to info@thejeffzappshow.com. Visit our website at thejeffzappshow.com to sign up for our newsletter, catch up on archive shows, or to link to our social media. See you next time right here on The Jeff Zapp Show.